This is Marin. I use she, her pronouns, energy healer, and teacher of the Psychic Self-Healing Program that's starting on April 3rd. And just coming on here for another some space of a Q&A info session, trying to see if there's anything that we can help in terms of blocks to getting you to join us. I shared a little bit about myself last week and my journey into energy healing, Reiki, and what that did for me in terms of moving through a transition. I moved from the place that I grew up in for a second time. I left a career that I thought I was going to be in forever. I'm looking at two different screens just so you know. And the last 7 years, I have been diving deeper into integrating and utilizing the different tools and moving through different themes and healing different past conditioning, past experiences, whether in this lifetime or others. And to me, it has been a really beautiful way to come along all the other modalities in my life, all other things that kind of help me navigate this world. Some of you have heard I love to use the idea of breathe, move, eat, love, sleep, repeat. I shared a little bit about that in my friend Tekla's podcast. How just little ways to remind myself of how to navigate the day, how to show up for myself, and in order for a bigger purpose to live through me, in order for me to show up for the work and for the service I believe that I'm here for. Part of my journey as well was learning other modalities and learning other ways to know myself. I see this as like a palette to paint from, that a lot of folks feel like, don't call me something from human design or a specific sign from astrology that kind of boxes me in, and I think for some folks they like feel like it's too black or white sort of thing of like, but for me, Enneagram, human design, StrengthsFinder, all of these things are just, again, parts of a palette, parts of ways for you to know about yourself a little bit more. Awareness is key for us to be able to cipher or have things bubble up, for us to really mirror and see the ways that we have shown up, and to continue to question, is this something that works for me? Is this a past system or condition or just way that I've been taught is the right or best way that I maybe don't believe anymore? Maybe there's an upgrade or a release that needs to happen, or a reframe around how I even want to be in this world. How I want to be in this body, how I want to show up with my heart and in my voice and as a messenger or as in service in some way. And ultimately that astrology and all of these kind of self-help, I guess, or ways to know each other, don't have to necessarily like pin us into a corner. They can be really great ways to continue to uncover information and uncover new growth edges or new ways to grow, new ways to show up. I shared part of my entryway into Reiki, into energy healing, was my transition out of the classroom. I was a teacher, and at that point was starting to learn, oh, maybe I am a little more introverted than I thought. Oh, this word, empathic or highly sensitive person, I feel like that's me in some cases. I don't know what it is, but there are moments where I'm so overwhelmed, especially when I walk into this building, especially when I try and do a printmaking unit with 45 kids in my like, I was up against so much that is systemically not helpful or like sustainable as a human being. And I really loved the art making process with kiddos, but the way that I had to be able to create that space day in, day out, and ultimately, like, I kept losing myself. I kept having to give over myself more ways than I realized. And it was also as I was, or before I was deciding to leave the classroom, I also went through a breakup, and that breakup was a catalyst and a path for me to learn more about the Enneagram. I went on a mini weekend retreat to grieve and kind of regroup. And this was a space and a place and a coach that I had a friend that had tried. And it was a really beautiful moment. This person was a mentor and coach in the Enneagram. So I got to do a few sessions with her one-on-one, but mostly got to spend some time alone with with a whole bunch of different Enneagram books. And after taking a test, I was ultimately between a 2 and a 9, and I went through lots of different books and lots of different descriptions of the two, of the difference of between the 2 and the 9. And eventually there was a snippet of the 2 that just jumped out at the off the page for me. And it was a really big aha moment of, oh fuck, I see how I showed up in this past relationship, but also how I've been showing up in a lot of relationships where as a 2, we overgive. I am the helper, and I'm a 2 with a 3 wing, so I'm the hostess, which I used to really, really, really step into. I loved to be the hostess with the mostest. I saw my mom do that. I saw my grandparents or grandmothers do that. I saw aunts and uncles and aunts and friends do that. Like a lot of the women in my life, like put that face forward essentially. And that was a way that you were supposed to show up. I don't know if it's over time that I've just learned more and given myself more permission to be an introvert, but I was certainly a highly functioning, I don't know, I was just more extroverted in my 20s, but now I'm like, how much of that was a facade? Oops, sorry, my phone is dying. How much of that was a facade and just what I knew was my part to play in that moment versus how I really wanted to show up. And I think maybe there's a both and of maybe I really was a little more extroverted and liked to party, but also I can see how the partying and the smoking, I smoked cigarettes for a minute, y'all, were really ways to cope with the world, ways to cope with things that I just didn't know necessarily how to handle in terms of my emotions, in terms of relationships, in terms of how I wanted to be in the world. And so I share that because there's been many moments on my journey of ways that I have been able to see myself in a different way and to essentially choose differently, to do with more or new information or awareness and say, oh, well, that doesn't work for me. I would like to do XYZ instead. And then go through the push and the pull and the pain and the growth that requires the change. That it's not anything that perfectly happens. It happens over time with a lot of practice and a lot of mess and making mistakes and then trying again. And to me, all of these modalities, whether it's you like to use astrology or human design, that they all can be really helpful information. And reclaiming, reestablishing a relationship with yourself through the psychic self-healing program was also another layer to that, another piece of that in to be able to navigate my energetic space more, to not be completely overwhelmed in many spaces now, because I have grounding tools and ways to really own my space versus take on others, or just have more of a practice to clear that out, that I get a choice or have a choice of how much I take on and if I take that on. And yeah, I'm just reflecting. Essentially, I turned 42 this week, little Pisces at the cusp here. And I'm coming off of a 7-year cycle. I just finished my 42nd year into my 43rd. And within those 7 years has been my move to Colorado and has been my experience into this new world of not only somatics, but of energy, and to give permission for that and to give it due diligence, giving the unseen and the ways that I've known things, or the ways that I've been conditioned in a body, in a cis het woman body. I think part of it is that of like I learned I was in a patriarchal system where I learned how to damper and create, like, hold space for men and men's feelings, and that ultimately always being first before mine, or before my grandmother's, or before my mother's, before my sisters. That was definitely something that over time I realized also intersected with my my two-ness. So there's a little piece of that's innately in me, and to layer that on top of real life human experience of conditioning, of systems, of patriarchy, and also of whiteness, and how those things intersect and have created ways that I've navigated people in groups, and ultimately turned to more individualistic coping mechanisms, just because that was easier. It's easier to just not deal with other people and other people's shit, and to just navigate my own, which now I'm coming into, well, that also didn't serve me super well. And I really do crave and desire community. And so how can I use my tools? How can I use what I've learned about systems, about patriarchy, sexism, racism, and really utilize that awareness and information to show up differently? And so it's about knowledge, but it's also about knowing our bodies, and it's also about knowing our intuition, and knowing about the different ways that we have abilities to gain information, to co-create our lives, that we're not complete victims to every circumstance. And there are some circumstances that are just here for us to move through, and a part of the tapestry of our life, part of the experience to continue to grow, to continue to evolve, and continue to really find ways to show up as authentically as possible. If that's something that's of interest to you, again, you can choose many paths to encounter that. But I also have seen over time, right? Like there are times where Enneagram was the only thing I was thinking about, but now I have that layer, and then now I'm thinking about human design, and now I'm thinking about how I sense and know information, like that I get spine tingles, I get like a little itch in my ear. Like there's new and different ways that I've now given more permission and space, and are have a relationship and believe as information, and all of that continues to help me day in and day out. And it's not about being perfect, it's not about having it all figured out, but it is about finding ways to ride the waves, ride the ebbs and flows of this human experience, that it can be really hard. And especially the last 4+ years, right? Like the world has been going through it. Folks have been going through it in many, many ways. And again, I'm not saying I've done it perfectly, but at this point, I don't know what I would do if I didn't have these energy tools and the community that I have and the teacher that I have at Stacia. It would have been a little bit that much harder. And so let us know if you have any questions. Let us know if there's anything more that we can share in terms of how this looks and what this could potentially benefit for. It is life-changing. So if you are looking for transformation, if you are looking for a new modality to really own your experience, co-create your life, and also build community as we go, to really start to find a whole new layer of healing, then Psychic Self-Healing program might be for you. We meet weekly for 6 months, Wednesday mornings. I know that that can seem like a big commitment. And also, we record all of the visualizations and meditations. So if you do miss a week, we can always get you that. We do it weekly so that there is this integration and practice, especially when we start. It's you always a lot of folks intend, oh yeah, I'm going to practice my grounding cord, or I'm going to try this that we talked about today, and then life just happens. And so really it's that you keep coming back to class week after week, and it just builds over time. And then you'll be surprised in 6 months. And then maybe you'll want to do another 2.0 6 months with us. Maybe you'll want to do a third year where you're looking into channeling a little bit more, what that means to interact with entities or beings. There's lots of different things to explore. And so maybe you've been curious, maybe you've had experiences where you've interacted with the unseen, where you know something and you just can't put your name on it or put a word to it. Sorry, I'm dog sitting and he's highly reactive, so he might be. I'm impressed we haven't had anything yet, but that there are just, now I've lost my train of thought. Anyway, Psychic Self-Healing, we meet weekly, starting April 3rd for 6 months. And you learn tools to kind of own and reclaim your energetic space, but you also start to learn, we also teach you how to read energy. And the reading energy only helps encourage and kind of catapult your own healing. We really believe in this mirroring, that if I can do the work within me, I'm also supporting somebody else to do it. And also, if I'm reading somebody else, what I'm seeing within them is also something that's within me that needs to be released, that needs to be seen, that needs to be acknowledged and moved in order for space for something new. And I really like this idea of a tapestry of life, that there are so many different experiences and chunks of different fabrics and beads and ways that we do create this beautiful life. And there are highs and there are lows. And we're not attempting to bypass any of that, but just find some grounding in it and find some ways to navigate it a little bit better, or a little differently than maybe we've been doing it. So are you someone who does feel like hypersensitive and just overwhelmed if you're in big groups of people, or just you're a mom, a caregiver, a parent, a grandparent, and just have been overgiving in many, many ways and feel depleted? Maybe you're child free or trying to job transition, that there's also pressures or ways that you're feeling people look at you or question your choices, and you are really just trying to own that for yourself, that society might believe that the way to be successful is to get married, have kids, buy a house. But we also know the reality of the world, the 3D world that we exist in right now. So how do we play with that? How do we play with the 3D and the 5D, but not completely bypass systems of oppression, not completely bypass the reality that is this life right now, that is being on the earth right now in the human body. All right. I will share our link. Let me know if you have any questions in the DMs, but I'm gonna close up. Thanks, y'all. Hey!